All right, let's begin now. Right. Good morning, everyone. Once again, welcome to my session on the topic of rapid, reliable, and resilient recovery with Veeam data platform. All right, my name is Teck Si. I'm based out in Singapore. I'm the SE manager for Southeast Asia plus Korea. All right, once again, thank you for joining me here today. Hopefully, at the end of the session, you gain more insights what Veeam can do in the event that your organization suffer cyber resilience, cyber attack. Right. So in this session, I will break it into two major components. The first component will be basically sharing with you some use case that involve cyber attacks and how Veeam help the customer to perform a recovery, all right, cyber recovery, and then followed by some key features and functions that you will get to use or to leverage on in our product to help you prevent or even to recover from a cyber attack. Right, without much further ado, let's start now. Right. So just to give you a background, ransomware is a kind of disaster that we have been experiencing since the last 3 years, right? Just to give you some context, Veeam have performed a Veeam data protection report survey last year. We have been doing this survey for a couple of years now. And based on last year's survey that we released earlier this part of the year, 85% of the companies have experienced at least one attack from the last 12 months, right? 85%. And the worst scenario is during this attack, the organization takes about 1 to 2 weeks to come back online. That means they can resume their business, right? And the worst thing is only 19% of the companies were able to recover without paying a single dime or paying ransomware to the bad actors, right? So this is something that we done a survey with our Veeam data protection report, which you can download from our website, right? So generally, this is what the scenario is today in the market. Okay, and just to give you a bit more context of why Veeam data platform. If you remember, all right, in the old days or in the past, most organization will perform 100% backup. You need to do data protection, right, of your business, of your data. And in the typical scenario, before ransomware appear or become so common now, most of the time you are performing 3 to 5% of the recovery, typically worst case scenario due to hardware failure or whatever corruption, you may need to perform a volume restore. A worst case scenario is a bare metal restore or a single server restore. All right, and most of the time you probably will help a user to restore a file or a folder, right? And typically this contributes about 3 to 5% of your total data in your organization. With the introduction of ransomware, what happens is that you still need to perform 100% backup. However, with ransomware attacks being common, recovery becomes more hectic because you may, in certain extent, recover 100% of your data, right? Bringing your business back online, right? So to those that have been using legacy backup, most of the backup focus solution in the market focus is very much on backup. The focus on recovery is seldom discussed, right? Even for myself, when I go to field and talk to customer, right? Most of our customers' discussion or conversation is about how fast can you back up, all right? That kind of discussion, right? Can you back up within certain period of time? The discussion of recovery was seldom go into deep discussion, right? How can we bring back your business, or how can I recover your operation the fastest, the soonest possible, right? So from Veeam perspective, right, we focus very much on recovery, right? We have 90 over ways of recovery. And Veeam, if you are familiar with, we have many ways of protecting the workloads, right? Today, with the current version, we have four ways of backing up or protecting your workloads. So we have continuous data protection. We do replication of your source workload. We perform backup. We can even do storage, production storage snapshots. That means we can talk to your production storage array and perform snapshots, right, as a form of protection of your data, right? This helps you to reduce risk as well as help you save time and enable you to restore with confidence, right? Even today in our product portfolio, under the Veeam data platform, we have a recovery orchestration component to help you automate and orchestrate your recovery, right? Leveraging such as continuous data protection, right? Replication, backup, and storage integration to allow you to automate the recovery process and allowing you to restore with confidence. And before even disaster strike, you are able to perform recovery tests to ensure that your backup is capable to be so-called restored. You also will give you an idea how fast can you bring your business back online. All right, so this is just to give you a brief idea what Veeam recovery capabilities are. So next, let's go into the few case, right? So let's look at few case. This is an organization. Basically, what they have is 2 data center, right? An active passive environment whereby they are using storage replication from production to DR site, right? And however, malicious ransomware hits their production site and replications of their storage array, right? Whatever gets corrupted or hit by ransomware, encrypted production data gets replicated to the storage array on the DR site. That brings down DR site. So basically, forensics team came in, locked down the whole environment. Both DC are off limit. They are doing investigation. So what happens here is the customer engaged one of our consultant, a Veeam consultant, right, to come in and take a look, right? So what is the advice given to them is that the good thing is that they are not only doing replication of their storage array from production to the DR side, they also create multiple snapshots. All right. The thing here is that snapshots was not being affected by the ransomware. Everything is at that point in time. What the consultant did was to advise the customer install Veeam backup and replication at the secondary DC2, right? Leveraging the snapshots of the storage array and rebuild their data center from there, right? So that's what we do with the storage snapshot. Right, so this is just a screenshot of our recovering from our storage snapshot, right? Using the Veeam backup and recovery replication console, you are able to go to the storage infrastructure and you will see a storage array on the diagram here with multiple snapshots, right? So using multiple snapshots throughout the day with Veeam backup and replication, you can create multiple restore point with a very granular recovery point objective, right? Using snapshots not only give you the capability to restore all the images, we also have the capability to perform granular restore as the diagram show here, right? We are able to take that image and perform item level recovery such as Active Directory, Exchange Mailbox, SharePoint, SQL, and Oracle database, right? So moving on to field case 2, which is also another case, customer was hit by ransomware. And what happened is the on-prem backups got compromised because they didn't implement our hardened Linux repository or any other worm-like repository capabilities. So what happens is the primary VBR servers become useless because the repository is no longer available. But however, the good thing is that they did use our scale-up backup repository and apply the capacity tier capabilities, whereby our backup has been tiered to Microsoft Azure blob storage. All right, so what happens here is that we basically deploy a VBR host inside Microsoft Azure, perform a rescan of the Azure blob, right, and then do a restore of the VMs into Microsoft as Azure VMs in the cloud, right, and then scan for malware before we bring it back online. So this is field case 2, right, leveraging the cloud as a DR. All right, the last field case I want to share with you is this case whereby a ransomware attack has hit the organization. In this case, make the environment unavailable, right? The worst thing is that what happens here is, the good thing here, I'll say, the good thing here is that the backups is being pulled offline and is secure. However, the password vault for that repository is in the production and it got compromised. The funny thing is that the administrator saved the password vault offsite, which is at his home, right? At his home. And what they do is a blessing in disguise. They are able to get the password, able to access the backup data sets, right? And then what they do is they ran hardware and rebuild their data center and recover their production data on those new rented hardware. All right. So these are the three use cases that Veeam is involved, and we have helped our customer recover their data and bring their system back online. All right. So just to highlight, all right, some of the key things that I want to bring up to you is some of the key features that can help you during a cyber attack. Right, so one of the key things will be on our file level recovery. Right, Veeam has file level recovery for the longest time. However, not only do we do that and then stop there, we have enhanced it even further. Right, using the file level recovery, we help our customer to easily identify what are the data that is being modified or changed. Right, so what this interface show you is that we have this on the top ribbon. We have added something called compare with production. What compare with production will do is that once you choose a restore point that you want to restore, all right, from a system, right, and you click compare with production, what you do is we take the restore point data and compare with the production data, actual data. So it's a side-by-side comparison and identify whether is there any changes between the files in the restore point and the files in the production side, right? Assuming in this case, all the files are still intact, we are just doing a comparison whether the files has been modified in any way, right? In this case, it's all identical, right? We can, and this is new in version 12, right? We are at a current version. The other thing that we also can do is that we also can do comparison, right, with the attributes such as the permissions, right? So if that permission has been changed unknowingly and you want to restore, right, what you can do is you can perform a restore of your permission only, right? That's something that we have added on into our file level recovery. Moving on, looking at that from our Microsoft so-called Veeam Explorer for Microsoft Active Directory, we also implemented this thing called compare with production. So with Veeam Explorer for Microsoft Active Directory, you also can do compare with production by comparing your objects, whether your objects is being deleted, whether your attributes of your objects has been modified. You can use the compare with production using the restore point, comparing with your actual production Active Directory, and quickly identify those changed objects in the production, right? So once identified, we will be able to highlight within the screen what are the changed objects, and you can perform a restore and overwrite the one in the production easily. All right, so these are some of the key features that we have implemented in in our recovery software under the Veeam Explorer. On top of that, we also have compare with production in Veeam Explorer for Exchange as well. All right, let's move on. So talking about cyber recovery, we can never skip instant recovery at scale, right? So Veeam has been so-called the father of instant recovery for VM, right? We have this technology called instant VM recovery since 2010, right? We launched this capability, and ever since we have that, we have further enhanced it. So to let you know, we have instant recovery for multiple VMs recovery since version 10. We have added that feature. We also have instant disk recovery, which we seldom talk about, but what this means is that you have, for example, you have maybe a file virtual machine, a file server virtual machine running CD and E drive. Take, for example, E drive get corrupted, and you want to perform a recovery of that file server. All right. Traditionally, most people will do is I will just bring down my file server. I will perform instant VM recovery and then wipe out the whole thing. What if in the situation whereby C and D have certain data that you want to keep, right? And it's only E that suffers some data corruption or data loss. So what you can do is you can use instant disk recovery to just perform a online disk recovery for E drive only, right? While your file server is still running, right? So using instant disk recovery can maintain uptime and then perform a recovery at the same time. All right, the other next one is instant database recovery. We have this capability in version 11, that's version, right? So instant database allows you to perform recovery for SQL database and Oracle database with minimal downtime in the event of database outages, corruption, whatever reason it is. You are able to perform database recovery, all right, in a couple of minutes, spinning up your database, right, instantaneously. Same goes with instant NAS recovery, right? It enable you to perform recovery in the event that your filer fails, right? Whether you are using a high-end enterprise-grade file server, such as Isilon or NetAir, or if you are using a commercial-grade NAS box, this solution, this feature can be used in your environment easily. Right. So looking at this, let's go back a bit, right? Ransomware frequency. If we look at ransomware frequency, is it really happening so often? This is a survey that we did in 2022, a year earlier. Also the same question: how many ransomware attacks has your organization suffered in the last 12 months? We take this survey with about 1,008 participants, right? Out of that, in 2022, 24% does not have any ransomware attack, or they are not honest. Nobody knows, right? But at least 16%, at least one of them, at least the organization, about 76 of them suffered one ransomware attack. As this chart has shown you, at least once attack has happened to them, the organization. And the last 12 months, if you look at this chart, some of the organization did suffer more than once, right? As high as 6 or even more than 6 attacks per year, right? And if you look at this, this is 2022 survey based on 1,800 respondents. If you do a comparison early on in my chart, in 2023, when we did our survey for the last 12 months, that means in 2022, all right, that's 85% of respondents has suffered at least one attack, right? And that survey was done over 4,200 respondents, right? Right. So actually, over a period of 1 year, we have seen higher attacks happening to organization. If you are keen on the report, you also can get a download from this link, right? Just scan the QR code and you can download those reports and get a deeper dive on the ransomware landscape. So let's look at it. How pervasive is ransomware, right? How bad is it? Is it attacking your environment, right? So this is a question where what percentage of organizations production data do you estimate that the ransomware attack successfully encrypt? That means ransomware get the bad actors manage to breach into the environment and manage to encrypt your data, right? So from this chart, we can see that roughly average point of view, we are seeing about 47% of the production data gets encrypted, right? Of course, as high as about 100% is about 3%. So average, we are looking at 47% of your data. If your environment get compromised, chances are 47% average data encrypted will get encrypted in the production. All right, so let's go to the next slide, please. Right. So one of the key things that what we want to do is to prevent that from happening, right? Bad actors breach your environment and start encrypting your data. So one of the detection method is using our Veeam ransomware detection, right? Using Veeam, we have something called possible ransomware activity, right? Inside our Veeam monitoring software, right? You can basically enable it, and what we'll do is it will track the your production workload, your virtual machines, whether they have high CPU usage, stuff like that, right? If you suffered a potential attack, so what we are doing here is that we are able to monitor the suspicious activity. In this case, your CPU suddenly have a high spike of utilization, right? And going there, looking into other area of detection is to look at your backup size. In this case, we also have a feature to monitor suspicious backup incremental size, right? In this example, you will be able to see that the suspicious workload is having a high change rate, all right? So in high change rate equates to high incremental backup size, right? In this case, 159% change rate, right? This was being picked up during our backup, and that also will trigger alert to the administrator, right? And other things such as things are unusual job duration. So one of the key things is that if, let's say, your backup jobs, your source workload get encrypted, and there's a lot of things to be backed up. At the same time, there probably a lot of activities is running on your source workload, such as high CPU utilization or disk utilization, maybe encryption is ongoing. We also have something called unusual job duration, because when we run a backup job, it takes longer to perform a backup. That also can be a warning sign to you, right? And last but not least, find the compromised account, right? So also one of the key things is that when a bad actors goes to your environment, they could be starting to do guessing of your password, trying to going into your source workload. Not only that, they also will first go into your backup environment. So one of the new approach that the bad actors will do is to try to make changes to your backup jobs. So what they will first do is try to penetrate to your VBR console or your backup console and try to modify your backup jobs, right? By modifying your backup jobs, what it means is that if they manage to go in and modify your backup jobs, they probably will just say, okay, now instead of backing up the whole server, I just back up certain unimportant files, right, or volumes, and then let the job continue. If you are just doing a day-to-day backup monitoring where, oh, backup successful, just looking for a check mark that is successful or failed, right, you will not notice that you are being compromised, because to the administrator perspective, your backup is successful. So when things does happen, bad things does happen, when you try to perform a recovery, you notice that you are not able to perform any recovery because the backup has been modified to backup unimportant data that you cannot perform a full recovery, right? So this is how the bad actors are doing right nowadays. Right. So of course, there is other things that after the post, imagine you are hit by a 0-day attack, or for example, the bad actors have penetrated your environment and did something or planted some malicious code into your environment, all right, or you have a 0-day vulnerability. One of the key things is to test for possible ransomware activity, right? So doing so, what we are doing is that we are using sure backup to perform validation of your backup, right? In this case, we are using sure backup to check our backup is successful, right? By powering up the machine. On top of that, sure backup policy, you can add on validation as well as antivirus scan. By adding on the antivirus scan, of course, you will be able to go into the backup workload to perform file level scans of your data. Right. And of course, at the end, in the worst case scenario, when you need to perform a recovery because of cyber risk that you have experienced, you also can use secure restore. This is where when you want to perform a recovery after a ransomware attack, you can use our feature called secure restore. Secure restore, what it do is that you will initiate a recovery, right? A recovery will happen. And then what happens is before performing a recovery, we will mount the backup restore point to a mount server, whereby the latest antivirus signature with the latest signatures is being implemented in the mount server itself. And then where we will then perform a scan, right? We'll do a virus scan on that backup data sets. During that scan, what happens? There will be 3 outcomes that you may experience. The first outcome that we prefer is that we do not find any virus, right? And then the restore will continue to restore to your hypervisor. Of course, there are other outcomes that you may experience whereby you found an infection, but you want to continue to recover, right? And then perform a manual intervention to restore your VM by manually remove that malicious code or virus in your hypervisor on the VM itself. The last one, last option is you found a virus, stop the restore, and then perform another secure restore on another restore point, right? So some of the out-of-the-box support antivirus we work with Microsoft Windows Defender, ESET, Symantec, and of course you can add on other antivirus software that support command line, right? We have enhanced this capability into our Veeam Recovery Orchestrator, VRO, right? So for those that are not familiar with our product, we have this thing called Veeam Recovery Orchestrator. All right, Veeam Recovery Orchestrator basically helps you to automate your recovery, test your DR, as well as automate your recovery in the event of disaster, right? And one of the key things that we add on with the current version is to perform a ransomware scan, right? To perform scan to make sure that your restore point during peacetime, you can perform scan, making sure that there's no viruses in your backup restore point and do this scan. All right, so what happened is very simple. When you try to run your DR plan, right, all you need to do is click on the ransomware scan, tell the ransomware scan how many previous restore point do you want to scan. So you can schedule that. I want to plan, in this case, I want to scan the current version and the previous last 9 restore point, right? So just doing a scan, and that's it, right? So during the DR ransomware scan, what happens here, you can see from the screen, is that we will run a scan and then we'll highlight, is there any checks detected using the specific AV scanner that you use, in this case, a Windows Defender. All right, if there's no check detected, there'll be an exit 0 code presented, right? And that means as safe restore point for you, right? So next thing, after all this, we talk about all this recovery and protection deterring features. The last portion of it is about the repository. As you know, the bad actors today no longer go from your source workload. They also go for the backup repository. So going for your backup repository means they are removing your safety net, leaving you no chance to perform a recovery, but to pay the ransom. All right. So one of the key things that we notice in general is that we are seeing more and more customers are using public cloud or hyperscalers to store their backup data, right? In this case, Amazon and Azure, 58%. We are also seeing more and more customers using object storage to store their backup data sets on-prem, right? So object storage are basically you go to a storage vendor that sell object storage and you install them on-prem, right? And of course, we also start to see as it get more and more common to use immutability capability, like using on-prem storage array with immutable snapshots capability. Some of the storage vendors today, if you are using production storage of certain brands, you are able to perform storage snapshot with worm-like feature, blocking your snapshots. Of course, the last one is 37% is using cloud service providers, right? Like our Veeam cloud and cloud service provider, where they offer backup as a service or DR as a service option. If you do not like to use hyperscaler like Amazon or Azure to keep your data sets, if you have the requirement of data sovereignty that you want to leverage on a service provider based out in your country, definitely you can go with our Veeam cloud service provider, where every country we have at least multiple representatives, whereby you can continue to back up, save your data in your own data center. You can have another copy of your backup data sets on these cloud service providers, right? They will host your backup data at their premises, like giving you a second copy, right? And of course, last but not least, air gap, a true air gap solution is tape, right? So we still have a lot of customers, and I believe in the market, a lot of organizations, they are still using tape, whereby you eject a tape and you keep it offline. It's the most secure because no one can access unless the bad actors get hold of tape and destroy it, right? However, having said so, we still have about 5% of this people that do not have any air gap or immutability backup solution in their environment, right? So if you look at, we talk about immutable, we talk about air gap, right? So just to bring things to perspective, immutable is not equal to hardened, and hardened is not equal to air gap, or immutable is not equal to air gap, right? So from our perspective, these are three different scenarios. Immutable basically protects your data from any changes made, right? Whether it's legitimate or illegitimate. That means once you make your backup data sets immutable, it means that you cannot make any changes, including encryption or file change or anything like that. You can't make any change. Hardened is to make sure that basically your repository has minimal small attack surface area, right? You do not want to install your hardened repository with, for example, with other services, right? If you are using a Veeam hardened repository, you just want to use it specifically for storing backup data, running only the repository services in that Linux machine, right? You do not want to install other services, maybe file services, NTP services, stuff like that. That by doing so, right, you are making your footprint of attack, the surface of that particular repository bigger, wider, right? So harden basically, what from our perspective is to minimize the attack surface of the repository so that it has minimal services, and the services is very specifically for the purpose of storing your backup data, right? Of course, last but not least, air gap. Air gap is basically making sure that your data is totally isolated without any connectivity, right? So for example, even for example, tape, if your tape is still inside a tape library, right, and this tape library is connected to a backup server, right, and that is not equals to air gap, right? Air gap means that tape in the tape library connected to the the backup server must be ejected and stored somewhere, right? In that sense, it's truly air gap. So with these three combined together, all right, we can look at a secure backup, right? A truly secure backup. Right, so what Veeam has to offer in this current state is that today we have this thing called Scale Up Backup Repository. Right, in Scale Backup Repository, just to quickly highlight, we do support various type of repository. Because Veeam is software defined, we allow you to use any direct attached storage to a server and configure them as repository. Right, and you can use dedupe appliance in the market as a repository whereby you can back up to a dedupe appliance to store your backup data, and with the global dedupe, it will help you reduce your backup footprint. Okay, and of course we have our Veeam hardened repository, and the last one in V12 we have added on S3 compatible object storage, whereby you can back up directly to object storage, right? So if you are using S3 object storage or you are using hardened repository, you can also have that immutable capability, right, from your performance tier, right? And backing up to capacity tier, if you have long-term retention or a requirement that maybe your monthly or your yearly backups need to go there, right, you can store them into object storage in capacity tier, right? So object storage also, we do support object lock API from S3 object lock APIs. Also, any vendors for S3 compatible storage vendors that support object lock, you can turn on that capability and make your backup immutable. Right. Today, we also support object lock in Amazon S3 in the cloud, as well as the added new vendor, which is Microsoft Azure Blob Storage. They also have immutability today. Right. So to further protect your data, yet minimize your cost, you can also use archive tier. If you have compliance data that you need to keep for very long, but you're not going to use it for recovery, you can consider using archive tier, right? If you move from Amazon S3 to Amazon S3 Glacier, you also can turn on the immutability capability and store it in archive tier. Same goes for Microsoft Azure, where you can store your long-term retention compliance data in Azure Archive Blob Storage as well, with immutability turned on. All right, so looking at the different media that Veeam support, all right, giving you resiliency, right? We have said earlier on, Veeam ready object storage, right? We have object storage with immutability. As long as they support object lock APIs, you can turn on the immutability, right? So this give you prevent accidental or intentional deletion of your backup data. And you also can use worm-like tape media. So today, through air gap, using tape, eject the tape, right? Prevent accidental overwrite of tapes. You can also use the worm capability by going to read-only mode, or you can purchase LTO tapes with worm function built into it, right? Of course, the other thing will be the worm storage snapshot. Early on, I highlight today storage vendors from storage array do offer snapshot with worm capability. So you can use VBR and the storage vendor to perform a snapshot, orchestrated snapshot, and then apply worm or immutability to those snapshots, right? So these are all the resilient media that you can consider. On top of that, you have like Cloud Connect capability, where our VCSP offers to our customer. This is a capability whereby a subscriber or tenant that using our Veeam Cloud Service Provider backup as a service offering, what the VCSP can do is to turn on the insider protection for the customer, right? In the event, for whatever reasons, that the VBR in the customer tenant side get compromised and data is deleted, right? The Veeam Cloud Service Provider will have a third copy to restore your backup data for you, in case that your backup data is being removed accidentally or intentionally. And of course, Veeam hardened repository. And last but not least, offline air gap media copies on this, right? So we also support external drive or rotational drives that you can use as hot pluggable, whereby you can specify that this media, I will back up to this media, and then I will tell VBR that this media will be removed because it's rotational. We can unplug from it, right, and then can plug it back for recovery. So you can basically remove external medias such as USB drive and deem them as removable or rotational drives. All right. Of course, there is some other methods whereby you can use, such as storage snapshot or replication. But do note that snapshots on the storage array or replication from a storage array is not really air gap or resilient, because any changes made from the source typically will get replicated across to the secondary site, right? Snapshots, if something happens on the primary volume or the primary volume that you perform a snapshot may get compromised as well. All right, with that, I just want to highlight, right, with that Veeam data platform, you can see that Veeam provide end-to-end before breach and after breach. So if you look at pre-breach, we can use Veeam 1 for possible ransomware activity alarm. We can do secure backups, right? Making sure, like, such as doing scans, stuff like that, secure backup, right, to sure backup to make sure that your backups are tested. Validate your recovery test using Veeam Recovery Orchestrator to perform ransomware scan or perform DR drill to make sure everything is working fine. So during a post-breach, imagine your environment got compromised, you can look at secure, how can you do a secure backup, right? So making sure that when the breach happens, the bad actors cannot go to your backup repository and make changes or cause corruption to your backup, right? So some of the things, like even let's say for a worst case, your Veeam backup and replication console, the management server gets destroyed, right? Your immutable repository should stay be there, prevent from any corruption, all right? And last but not least, should anything goes south, right? You want to go to a recovery, right? We have instant recovery to quickly bring back your services for your critical workloads, right? Recover from replicas or even recover from snapshots. These are the various fast recovery approach or methods that you can apply in the event this way. So with that, I just want to open to the floor if you have any questions there. All right. So just while you have, if you have any question, do type in the question box, right? Don't put it into the chat box, right? Post it there. Okay. All right, while we are thinking whether you have any question, I also like to make two announcements, right? I think the first announcement will be to inform everyone, this is something hot off the press, just to thank our customer. If you are a customer, you are using our product, thank you. I just want to share with you this report just released, I think, last night. IDC have announced our semi-annual software tracker for data replication and protection, right? Veeam become global #1 as the #1 data protection vendor in the market, right? You can see from the screen, right? We are doing, this is for second half of 2022, right? So every half a year they will release a report. So this is more for last year, 2022, second half, right? And we are taking about 12% market share. So simplicity, and we are still growing moving forward. We can't do this without your support and your contribution. So I'd like to thank you, right, wherever you are, for making Veeam #1 worldwide. Second thing that I want to share with you is that we are going to have this thing called Veeam on 2023 Expand. It's a hybrid model. There is a physical event running in May, which is about next month, one more month to go, right? And it's held in Miami, Florida. And we also have online, right? Definitely, I think most of you will probably take it online. Do register, all right? Do some network and to go in, learn some new knowledge from the data recovery experts, right, in the market, right? If you are available, I do encourage you to register, do the QR code scan, right, and join us online. I hope to see you there, right? And and learn something or share something with the rest, right? With that, is there any questions? Right. If not, I just want to say thank you very much for attending my session. Hope to see you in the next one. Thank you very much.